All right, everyone. Well, welcome back, and we are very honoured to be joined this morning by a true legend and pioneer of the game, Yves. So, Yves, look, thank you very much for joining us today. So, look, getting straight into it, throughout your career, you always displayed a high level of creativity and an unorthodox approach. Would you attribute a lot of your success in MMA to sort of breaking away from the traditional approach and coming at it in your own style, particularly back in the early 2000s when MMA was sort of still in its early stages in, the mainstream popularity?
Man, that's a hard question to answer because it's like I got in there and I just did me. You know what I mean? I grew up watching martial arts movies. The first movie I ever remember watching is Enter the Dragon, and then I watched all the kickboxers, Cynthia Rothrock, of course, all Jackie Chan. So like my thing was just like, and then Bruce Lee had the thought. I read saw all these documentaries on Bruce Lee and read a lot of things that he said, saw some interviews, and he was just always about what works. You know what I mean? What works now? And that's I think that's just been a big influence for me, so that the more I learn is like, oh, I have these options. And yeah, like the thing about being creative, I wasn't trying to be creative or be cool. I was like, I think this will work, so I'm gonna try this.
Yeah,
that's kind of how my brain works.
Yeah, 100%. Look, Yves, being someone who has transitioned from fighting to coaching is something that is quite special, I think, for the fighters and athletes that you're coaching, because you know how they're feeling and what they're going through, during the good moments, bad moments, and everything in between. So for you, what is the most rewarding aspect, do you find, of coaching?
Man, this may sound, or this may not be the answer you're looking for, but seeing them succeed, what I mean? That's the best feeling, to be in somebody's corner and watch them get their hand raised. Like there's a bunch of different feelings that come along with that. They're all good. Sometimes when let's imagine one of my guys finishes with something that we've really focused on for this camp, like it's a great feeling, but it's different from watching like one of my guys go out in his debut and just dominate, just completely. But like all these feelings, like watching these guys get their hand raised, that's probably the best feeling, man. There's a lot of other feelings that come along with it, especially having done it before, at a time when the game was not what it is. Like through my course of the sport, like I've seen things change, and I was a part of some of those changes, but it's just so much bigger now. And I would love for especially the younger guys that I coach to recognize that and just put themselves in a position where once this is over, they can do whatever it is they want to do for the rest of their lives and not be a slave to anything.
For sure. Well, touching on that, when we look at today's MMA landscape, where a fighter's popularity can maybe, take over another fighter's work rate or record in order to get a title fight, do you think that is taking away from the purity of the sport, or do you just see as part of what's going to happen as the sport gets bigger?
I feel like that needs to be prioritized. I think it definitely helps the sport. It's a benefit to the sport. It helps bring eyes to it. People love drama, but my definition of drama is making something out of nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like the thing about fighting is when guys are like in each other's face, yelling at each other and blah blah blah. But you guys are going to get in the cage and fight anyway. Are you going to throw harder punches? You're going to I don't really get that. So, these guys who pop off at the mouth and they get themselves in these positions over people who've earned the spot through when you look at what they've done on the course to getting there or being the number one ranked guy and having beaten all these other guys. That's it's disappointing to see that be so prevalent. But I understand, and I think it has its place. But I don't think its place should be at the top of the priorities list. I think that should be a secondary thing to really to a meritocracy, really.
Yep.
I'm sure you're aware there is a huge card coming up, obviously in October, UFC 280, which is headlined by Charles Oliveira and Islam Makachev. Obviously, it's a division you once called home many years ago, and it's a hard fight for me to kind of think of and predict. So I do want to get your prediction for us for that fight, and if you have any thoughts or anything, any insight you believe on the winner of that fight.
That fight for me is really hard to call.
Yeah.
Especially like Oliveira's been on a real good run, and getting the title, beating Michael Chandler, it's a good quality win. But then Poirier and Gaethje, those are two really, really big wins, man. That I feel like that solidifies him at the top of the division. But then when we look at Makachev and we look at, what he's done on the way there, what he's capable of, I feel like I would have a much clearer picture, or at least somewhat clearer picture of how this plays out if I saw Makachev versus Dariush.
Yeah.
But without seeing that fight, I feel like, Makachev could go in there and run right through Oliveira. It's possible. But also he can go in there and get ran through by Oliveira.
Yeah.
I really don't have an answer for this one because Oliveira, when we look at Charles, you drop that guy gets it's basically a dropping, a sitting 8 count. Most people aren't jumping down there.
Yeah.
Like when that guy's not fully aware, he's still very dangerous off of his back.
Yeah.
In 2021, that says a lot about how skilled he is on the mat. And then on his feet, he's no slouch either.
Yeah.
He's clean. He cracks. Very, very tight with his defense. Anybody can get hit, but like he's the most complete fighter out there right now. And but then Makachev, he's got that Khabib sauce on him, I believe that his wrestling his wrestling's in the same neighborhood, but he also has a striking game that Khabib didn't have. So it's like it's really hard to call, but at the same time, I can't go against the champ, man. I have a lot of faith in both these guys. But if you put a gun to my head and you're like, pick, I'm be like, no, please don't kill me. but for real, I gotta go. I just gotta lean towards the champ. But I mean, if those odds are pretty even, if that's a pick'em fight, I'm good with that. I really don't feel like that should be one-sided, or there should be an underdog one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I think it's an incredibly close fight. So, and look, speaking of a fight that I thought was close going into it, Yves, we saw arguably one of the biggest knockouts in the sport history in the past weekend with Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. Do you think knockouts like this keep the fans honest in regards to remembering that in a sport like MMA, anyone really can win at any moment until the fight is over?
That's a really good question. I think the answer to that is yes, though. It say keeps the fans honest. It doesn't happen all the time, it doesn't happen very often, really. The last thing like this that I can remember, I mean, the Juliana Pena, I guess, Amanda Nunes was similar, but Amanda wasn't dominating that first fight like she did the second. Kamaru lost the first round convincingly, but then he came back and started taking a lead. He wasn't like especially dominant through 2 and 3 as he was in 4.
Yeah.
But you saw his lead growing, and it was obvious that he was, pulling out ahead. And I mean, everybody wrote Leon off, and then the head kick out of nowhere. Beautiful technique is a technique that I teach a lot, especially being a southpaw and facing that open stance so much. But yeah, I think it keeps people honest. But like I said, the last time you saw something like this, man, I would go with literally with GSP and Matt Serra.
Yeah.
It was a pretty one-sided affair. It was obvious who was winning that or going to win that should it go to the scorecards, and that's what this one looked like. And then it's just like, nope, you're all psych. It's like,
100%.
So that was pretty dope, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, that's what I kind of want to touch on next is, obviously, I think that will be the path that come sort of early next year, middle next year, is the rematch between Kamaru and Leon, and rightfully so for Kamaru. He's been a dominant champion and deserves nothing less than a rematch. But how do you see that rematch going down? Do you think it sort of tends similar to the first one, or second one rather, where Usman sort of dominates, or do you think there's a path where now he's been knocked out, there is a bit of hesitancy from Usman, and maybe a path where Leon can get a clear victory?
There's a little bit of that I believe is possible. I can't say for sure. That for Kamaru, I remember the first time. Literally, I've been sat down twice. I think been knocked out clean once, and Masvidal dropped me with a nice head kick. And I think after that, I wasn't too concerned with the getting knocked out. I still believed in myself. I still had confidence. Even after the Sam Stout fight, I didn't expect. I knew it was possible, but it was not in the forefront of my mind, And I think with Usman, like, it happened once. Like, yeah, I think he's going to be concerned, but when he gets in the gym and when he eats a big shot in the room and just walks through it, I think his brain will settle into, I can still take a shot. I just got caught. That being said, though, Leon Edwards, like, his confidence has to be up now, right? Like, he knows he can do it. I think the only problem could be if he relies on, or if he believes that's the key. That's the thing. That's the way that he's going to do it. Again, I have that over him. I'm going to do that all the time, because that's not how that works. So, but I believe he's going to be confident going into this one. And if there was anything that he didn't do getting prepared for this one, he's going to do it this time around, because he knows he can win. I'm sure he went into that one confident, believing that he could win. Through the second, third, and fourth round, he saw the fight getting away from him. But, like, you could call it a Hail Mary, you can call it whatever. But, like, that's the thing I love about fighting, man. You don't have to go to the distance. The clock is just there as a timekeeper. And you could shut it off anytime. And he understood that, and he was throwing the techniques to make that happen, not in the volume that we would have liked to see, but like, he got it done. So, I mean, going into this third fight, his confidence is going to be different. Now, is Kamaru Usman going to be able to break that? Because that's the other thing. Like, that happened at the end of the fight. So I feel like he's going to always be in this one. And he may have a different attitude, different demeanor in this one, should he be, falling behind. He may still have the attitude of, I can do this, and showing that to us more so than he did in this one. So I'm really interested in that fight as a rematch. I think, like you said, deservedly, Kamaru, and especially in that fight, there's some champions, if it happens real quick or if you get dominated, like Woodley's a really good friend of mine. I love the guy, but like his fight with Kamaru didn't warrant a rematch, even though he was a competent champion. He was a good champion. And up until that, he looked like he was going to be a strong champion for a long time, which he was at the time. But that fight did not warrant a rematch. It didn't scream, these guys should go ahead. Amanda Nunes and
Pena
Jessica,
too.
Pena, Juliana Pena. That was like, that deserves a rematch. I mean, we don't really understand, like, that didn't look like the Amanda we know. That didn't look like the Amanda we know. And then this one, Kamaru, he was dominant for a large portion of the fight, And Leon had a chance, but Kamaru was also dominant. So, like, this is a good one, man. Let's see that again. So, like, I get it, and I'm all on board.
Yeah, for sure. So, look, Yves, with organizations like ONE, PFL, and Bellator now really standing out as their own organizations, do you think there has ever been a better time to be a young fighter in the sport, considering now there are so many other options outside of the UFC?
Nah, there's never been a better time to be an athlete in the sport. But that's the nature of the sport. The sport is so young, you know what I mean? As the sport grows, there's still a climb. There's still, I don't know if we're at the peak right now or not, but there's never been, it's not like the sport was going woo and it came back down and woo, like the stock market. What I mean? It's on a constant rise. And until we hit that plateau, and even when you get to the plateau, like, look at the NFL. I don't know rugby very well. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the NFL.
I do. Yeah.
But like, when you look at the NFL, like back in the 60s, those guys, the linemen, those guys were working at Home Depot in the off season. Like, just 10 years ago, And even to this day, there are some guys fighting in the UFC. They're still working other jobs.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to come a point when that's not the thing. And at that point, that'll be the best time to be in the sport, you know? But, right now, this is definitely the best time to be in sport with all the avenues to gain skills, experience, and to make real money, you know, and to help build a brand, build a name. You know, the PFL is on television. One is on television in the US and worldwide. You know, Bellator is everywhere, you know, also the UFC. So, I mean, I feel like this is a great time for the sport, but we're still on that peak, and hopefully it doesn't plateau out very soon.
Yves, look, man, last one from us, and we want to really thank you for giving us some time today. You know, it's a massive honor for us. So, last one from us. Obviously, your nickname was the Uncrowned King. Is there someone today, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL, that you could pass that baton on to and crown them as the Uncrowned King? I mean, Charles Oliveira comes to mind for me, but
absolutely 100%. I like you like I don't even like that's the king. I don't care what anybody says, but I was there. I was there at that event.
Yeah, wow.
My guy Matt Danger Snell was fighting on that card, and Danger told me like he wasn't going to make weight that morning. And but like when I hear it, like that's what are we talking about? What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. You know,
Half a
it
pound.
doesn't make any sense. I think Matt Lindland should have lost his. If you remember Matt Lindland, I think he should have lost his belt. David Terrell. I think he should have been the champion at that point when he fought David Terrell. I think Charles Oliveira right now, we all know Charles Oliveira is the champion.
He's a champ.
Like, why is there going to be an asterisk next to this fight? You know, like you, and it's one of those things where it's really disappointing because it's like, well, John Jones beat DC, he gets disqualified after the fight, and you give DC back. DC's the champion now. Like you give him the belt. So like Oliveira, it's not like Oliveira like completely missed weight. He just didn't make scratch.
Yeah,
he made 56. So like, what are we doing? You know, this doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's I don't know. I don't make all the calls, but that's a petty call to me.
Yeah, 100%. Yves, look, man, it's been an absolute honor for us to chat to you this morning, and we really, really thank you for giving us some time. You know, you're a big part of our lives in the early 2000s, growing up and watching you, you know, do your thing and continue to coach, especially guys like Matt Danger Snell, who's an absolute animal. It's great to watch, and we'd love to have you on again for a chat, man. We really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys wanting me on. I know it's probably early in the morning for you guys, so thanks for being accommodating. And if I get back to the land down under, I'd love to run into you guys and go grab a burger with some beets in it.
We'll go for a roll. We'll have a burger. We'll do it all. Thanks very much, man.
Thanks, Yves.
Thanks, Yves.
Thank you guys. You guys take care.
You too.